to Sports World English edition on the Barber Network and ZINGOTV channel 250. I just want to remind you once again to please download our applications of Barnburner and ZINGOTV on the respective app stores on iOS and Android. Remember that the applications are absolutely free, so there is no reason why not to download them and enjoy our programming while you download them, or if you have already downloaded them because you are watching continuously on our network. Please remember to leave us a comment and a rating. We always like to hear what you want to see, what you want, how our applications are working. You can also find ZINGOTV on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Amazon Fire Sticks, on Roku and Roku TV Sticks, and on all Smart TVs 2016 and forward. As you can see from my screen, on the screen you have two individuals. One I will present at a later time. You probably are familiar with Justin Levine, host of our women's hockey at the OHL here on the Barber Network on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, respectively. But now our star here for tonight, our guest is none other than the president and head coach of the Toronto 6 Women's Hockey Club of the NWHL, Gidget Murphy. Welcome, Ms. Murphy. We'd love to have you here, and thank you for honoring with your presence.
Eduardo, great to be here. Justin, how you doing? Nice to see everyone. I'm in the 6 in Toronto, having some fun. I live in Rosedale now. You know, I don't know if you guys are letting Americans in, but, you know, I crashed the gates. I'm in, having some fun. No, it's fun to be up here. I was a little taken aback last night. I'm leaving the rink, a little snow, a little early for Digit Murphy, but I have my little toque on. Got out there and got at it. So it's awesome to be on the show. And look at you, all that baseball stuff in the background. What's up with that?
I am actually just putting together now the NWHL logo. I'm going to put it on. I know this was from my previous show. And normally this is my show, Spanish Sports World, with my co-host Lloyd Mosby every Wednesday night. So. Lloyd wasn't able to be here tonight, and I imagine he will love to hear. He's an avid hockey fan, and especially a women's advocate. So
it's awesome, though. It doesn't matter. Baseball, you know, let's just talk sports. I mean, it's so fun.
Oh, for sure. So I want to start with your background because it's extremely graduate of Cornell University. It's an amazing alma mater. Can you your background from Cornell? How do you start playing hockey at Cornell?
I always like to start it like back when I was younger, right? Because I actually was a big baseball fan growing up. Big baseball fan. And you know what got me all over the Title IX thing and, you know, not having equal opportunity was not being able to wear the Little League jersey, right? Back in the day, they denied Digit Murphy the opportunity to wear the jersey. No, but it was just girls didn't play sports. I'm old, Eduardo. You know, I mean, Justin there could be my son. But I started back in the 70s and got recruited out of Rhode Island. I don't know if people know where Rhode Island is. It's that small state. It's right near Boston, near Boston and Connecticut. And I came from this area of the country. I don't know if you know David Quinn, the coach of the New York Rangers, and Clark Donatelli, one of the big famous Olympians, and David Capuano and Jack Capuano. I'm from that same area in Rhode Island. So we all played hockey together, and those guys went on to the NHL. And I was lucky enough to play sports back then and skated on the ponds and got discovered and got recruited to at the first class of Cornell University for hockey, the first recruited class. A lot of the other classes were just kind of molded in and folded in from local universities. But 79 to 83, I was at Cornell. And then I went on in 87 to Brown University, coached at Brown University from 1987 to 2011. Lots of years there, lots of great times, lots of great battles. Battled a lot. Battled Title IX, battled, a lot of battles with men's sports for equity. It was difficult, but it's the kind of thing, Eduardo and Justin, that if you're built, for that kind of battling, you just do it, right? You just do it. It's your responsibility to advocate for the players, for the women. And I didn't mind. So did that, won a bunch of championships there, left Brown in 2011. And I think, Justin, I met you after that, right? Coaching the Blades. And I coached the Boston Blades in the CWHL. We won a couple of Clarkson Cups there. Left the CWHL in when did I leave? 2015, after we won the Clarkson Cup. And went to lacrosse, started women's professional lacrosse. Had to leave hockey for a little while. Got a call from China in 2017, coached the Chinese national team, started and helped out their program in 2017 for the 2022 Olympics. And then recently, I got a call from the NWHL, our owners, Joanna Boynton and Ty Taminia. And I couldn't say no. And to be in the greatest hockey city, in the greatest hockey market in the world, what's better than this? And that's why I'm here. Long answer to a short question.
So I want to go back to Brown, because Brown is interesting school. Everybody probably remembers Brown from the wonderful show, The Huxtables, with Bill Cosby, because they mentioned Brown so often that you had to go to research on Brown.
Yeah.
Brown is a very political school in which they say they support equality.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until very recent that actually that has happened.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's funny that you bring up Brown, because you would have thought back in the 90s when I was there, late 80s, early 90s, that there would have been a lot of equity. But you find that when sports are involved, it's kind of that last gasp of, when the men are controlling what they can control. Okay, and I'm not going to lie. I'm going to get right out there and say that at Brown, they had a very different I don't know. I don't want to say they had respect for women, but when it came to sports, we were still in our infancy, so they just didn't give us the resources we needed to succeed or thrive. A lot of the alumni groups were funding a lot of the men's sports, and it was really hard for them to give up that power, I think. And when we came along, we were like, hey, wait, what about us? We want to have equal access to ice time. We want to have equal access to locker rooms. We want to have equal access to coaches. And the women at Brown were very smart, right? So they went up to the athletic director and they demanded equity. And next thing you knew, there was a little battle there. And the athletes actually sued Brown on behalf of a violation of Title IX, which is equal access to resources in sports. So it was interesting because as a coach, right, you're getting paid by Brown, right? So you're in this interesting quandary, right? You have this deep-rooted passion for justice, and you got your employer on the other side going, you do that, you're in the doghouse. So you get into this spot where you got to make your decision. And I was young. I was like, in my 30s, and I'm like, that's it. It doesn't matter. I'm going on the athlete side. And from that point on, I kind of stepped over that line. It wasn't that I couldn't wear the Little League uniform. Now they're not going to give us access to resources. So I just went for it, and I followed my heart, and I went on the side of the athletes. and there was a big battle, and the athletes ended up winning. But it created a lot of turmoil and a lot of judgment on the women. It was kind of sad, but at the end of the day, I think that the athletes did the right thing. They would stand by their word, and I feel like I did the right thing. And we got some stuff done. So we'll still have a lot of work to do, unfortunately, though, Eduardo.
So I I understand where that's coming from because I saw the same thing happen at my alma mater, which is University of Michigan, and I saw how women's sports were kind of left behind,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to kind of rat on the university.
Yeah, I know.
I played there. I played baseball at University of Michigan, but women's programs were more successful than the men's, and they weren't getting the same recognition just because it was women. And I remember that the same thing that happened at Brown happened at University of Michigan. Athletes actually stood their ground and said, "Look, we are NCAA champions. Give us the respect that we deserve." And it was then that I realized that you have to stand with who deserves it. And it was then when I started really when I after I left U of M that I started advocating for women's sports because that's what makes it when you see it hands first with your eyes, you say, okay, this is happening. This is not what it's supposed to be.
Yep. It's it's just not right. It just you have to have that feeling, right? It's like if you're not doing what's right deep in your heart and your soul, you kind of feel guilty or bad or mad, and you just don't want those feelings. And I always have been a pretty positive, kind of energetic advocate for anything, like whether it's like my team coaching or my children. It's all about fun and enthusiasm. And when you don't feel right in your heart, you can't enjoy life the way you want to enjoy it. So, I think it's no matter how difficult it is to be your authentic self in a world sometimes that doesn't agree with you. I think most people would probably agree that if you do that, you're going to be happier and be a better, more positive contributor to society. I don't know what you think, Justin. I want to bring Justin in. I want to know what he thinks.
I absolutely agree with you. Honestly, I'll take it from the standpoint of your videos with the Toronto Six Instagram account. You bring this fun energy to practices that's just so enjoyable to watch, as I'm sure it is to kind of feel and be a part of at Canada Ice Sports every week. And what I understand, that's twice a week, the practices that take place.
Yeah.
I think that's something really special that you bring. And, being familiar with you from the CWHL days, I believe that that's something that, you've brought throughout your entire career, and especially between the Blades, the Kunlun Red Star, or Shenzhen Keras Vanky Rays during your split in China. I think that's so important to, again, society and, living a life that's true and valuable.
Yeah, it's our new. You want to hear our new logo? I'll tell you. It's Fun, Fast, and Furious. That's how the Toronto Six plays. Fun, Fast, and Furious, and the kids get into it. They're like, yeah. I got some good stuff. I should have tweeted it out last night. The kids were lifting, right? And I say kids, like I shouldn't say kids. The ladies, the players, but to me, they're so young. They're like kids. Taylor Woods, you guys. I'm gonna send you a picture. Maybe you can post it on your site. She had on, how they do those pull-ups off the, they have all these apparatuses. We're in the gym. We're in the TPS. Jesse Cook has a gym in Canlan. She had this massive chain that she puts on her body and then does these pull-ups. I'm like, whoa. When we were back in the day, Eduardo, we had a weight room, but geez, not like this, man. They got chains they're using and these bands. And I was like, oh. She looked like she was on one of those like Ninja Warrior things. It was like ridiculous. So I got to bring that. I got to bring that kind of stuff into the Twitter handle. But I can't do everything, but I'm trying.
Well, you do a pretty darn good job at it, that's for sure.
So I want to ask Justin a question because he follows women's hockey very thoroughly, and He's above the mark, as I would put it. Uh, how has it been your experience from the CWHL to what is now in the NWHL? Your experience with women's hockey, are they more receptive to uh, the media than the men are? Because you have seen it from the OHL to the women's hockey. How are women?
It's interesting that you bring that up, and yeah, even guys who are just a slightly older than I am in the OHL, it's funny that not all of them are, I guess, what I'd say perhaps the brightest when it comes to the media, and that causes difficult conversation. But the ladies are just so receptive and so willing. When I joined the Markham Thunder organization to cover them in the CWHL 2017, 18, or maybe, I mean, they were welcoming. And then from going from that to the Toronto Six, and talking with Lindsay and Michaela Grant Mentis and the couple that I've spoken with so far, there's this real engagement, and they appreciate it so much. Like, it means something to them, and they don't take that for granted. Whereas OHL guys, I feel like, because they see scouts and whatever at every game in the press box, they're like, okay, this is usual, I'm gonna blow them off, whatever. But I think there's something so special about the ladies, and it's not just the Toronto Six, it's all over women's sports. And I've really realized that from the moment I got into women's hockey again with the Markham Thunder. I think that there was such a need to grow the brand, grow the game, and they recognized that. And when the CWHL shuttered, that was a huge disappointment. The players didn't see it coming. And then in the final letter from Laurel Walzak, who was the chair of the CWHL, she said media exposure was one of many, many things that went wrong that they needed more of. And truth be told, I mean, I went to the All-Star game. There were a lot, don't get me wrong, but they certainly could have used more. When you see like the Toronto Maple Leafs fill their press box full, and the CWHL, they didn't even give us the press box because, well, there wasn't many media to cover them. So it's kind of just that balance of men and women's sports. You realize there is a huge difference, but in terms of players being receptive, when it comes to the women, there's so much more appreciation for what we do. And I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know some of them. And Digit, that's something I want to kind of get to know you more. And now that you're on the Barn Burner Network, it's only going to make that so much easier.
It's going to be fun. It's interesting you say that. And I want to kind of throw this out there, because as I kind of look at, and I always look at things through a gender lens in a good way, right? Because I'm a mom, right? I have 4 sons and I have 2 daughters, and I'm constantly like looking at differences as they're raised, and how they react to things. And do you think a little bit of it is that women are just engaging to people, right? And they take care of each other, and they take care of, like, when they see you, they're not going to blow you off. Like, they're going to like engage with you. They're not going to think, "Oh, I'm too good for you." I think there's a lot of women in general. They're like, just, I'm not saying they're nicer than men, but they take more time, and they're nurturing, and they treat things like a family. If you care about me, I'm going to care about you. I mean, that's how I approach. And that's how I'm trying, not only myself, but try to impart my wisdom on my team. Our core values are in empowerment, education, and inclusion. And part of the inclusion piece is be inclusive to people, care about their opinions, don't judge them, be nice to people, be treated like you, with respect, and respect people like you want to be respected. Like, all those almost parental kind of pillars, but I think they transcend sport, and they go right into life. And if those are the kind of people and role models and leaders that most athletes need to espouse, because at the end of the day, it's not about sports, it's about life. And I think a lot of times we get confused, and we think like sports is about hero worship and make millions of dollars and all these things. And I think women have this unique opportunity to do sports the way they want to do it, which may not be on that hero worship platform. It's like a leadership thing, and you want women to have other role models that they can look up to. So I think there's a nice difference that we have the opportunity to make, and I think we're going to make a mistake if we try to be like the men.
Yeah, I really agree with you there. I think that there is just that natural difference. But yeah, you can't kind of differ the two. I mean, like you said, there's this significant difference, and that's just it.
And it's okay to be different. That's what I get a little, like, why are we trying to be something we're not? Why don't we embrace who we are? You know, and we're just different. And I always say, like, even like in other things like the PWHPA and us, right? It's not a either or an or, it's an and. We can both exist together. If it's just like life, right? If you can't have conversations and you can't agree to disagree, like, what? Like, what are we doing? Don't even get me political, Eduardo. Don't get me going on that.
Well, I was going to head in the political side, but I am going to start with the marketing side. You are the president of the Toronto Six. What is your strategy to try to get this team out there? Promotions. What are you guys? And I know that you guys are not going to be playing versus in Toronto because of what's going on around, but there has to be some sense promotions or marketing that has to go on in the city so that people know that you guys are their team.
Yeah, and I think, you know, without COVID, you know, the answer would be a lot different. But let's say it's a non-COVID world, right? Let's just say that. Okay, let's imagine. Let's imagine. Okay, kind of like down south, like the leader of our country is imagining that it's just going to go away. Did I say that out loud? Anyways, no, but like in a post-COVID world, it'd be like building relationships, collaborations with community engagement. It does, like, you could have like all the little girls, I mean, we have 41,000 girls or women playing hockey in Ontario. Like, that's a huge market, right? Let's go after those people first. Secondly, and you know, and get ourselves out there. We want to do clinics just like the CWHL. We want to do appearances in the schools, but we also have to engage with the corporate partners to have them respect and value us, yes, as a sports brand, but also as a women's leadership brand. Women are hot now. You know, people want women in leadership roles in their companies. We have players on our team, you know, from Cornell. We have players on our team from Syracuse. There are plenty of individuals out there in NWHL that went to Harvard, Yale, Princeton. Like, we have great ambassadors that, guess what, would come back to play hockey for us, especially if we had sponsorships from large corporations. So we want to represent our brand that way. We also want to, and this is something that I've always wanted to do, is reach across the aisle into places that normally sports don't reach. Arts, the sciences, anyone that wants to partner with sports in a meaningful way. And I think that, you know, have an art night. Invite local artists, invite local musicians, like, get creative with marketing. Don't say, oh, okay, here's what we have to sell. Of course we have to sell logo on the ice and brand on the jersey, but what about just engaging with the community so that they purchase tickets? Let's sell out the place. Let's sell out a few games, slow the roll. We don't have to boil the ocean overnight, but let's get people excited. And honestly, I love being here. I love creating excitement. Sometimes people think I'm crazy. I don't care. I want to create energy and excitement everywhere I go. And that's what we're going to do. And right now, they asked me to coach too. Why not? But if I'm the president, I'll still be meeting people, shaking hands, not kissing babies anymore because it's COVID. But, you know, someday maybe I'll be able to kiss babies. But we gotta make it work. We gotta excite. We gotta get people fired up. Let's go.
So, I know that. And let's put it this way: hockey hasn't a traditional ethnic sport, but as of recent, even in the National Hockey League, there is a lot of players from out that you would normally wouldn't get. You know, you have Austin Matthews that has Mexican descent. You have, you know, players that transcend that ethnic background. Do you see the Toronto Six expanding into that arena to bring those communities in to embrace the game of hockey, women's hockey?
1,000%. And I would love to partner. So any stick companies that are out there, you want to partner with us, we would love to do street hockey. Like, our players, it doesn't have to be ice hockey either. It could be street hockey. It could be roller hockey. Like, I think the biggest barrier to entry in hockey, of course, is ice. but it's also resources because it costs a lot of money to play hockey. So, what do we do to get more people with hockey sticks in their hand? And I know it's Canada, but still, I'm sure that there's scarce resources out there. So absolutely, I would love to do it. I would love to even, and here's the thing that I know we want to play hockey, right? But why wouldn't we? Maybe there's some players on our team that play baseball. Why don't we go out to a softball or baseball field and play a game with people? Like, we could play a softball game against a baseball team and get them all, fired up. Like, cross promote, market outside your comfort zone. Get people excited about the people in the sport. It may not be the sport. And then people come in. Oh my God, I went to a Toronto 6 game. I saw Shai Darkangelo. I saw Elaine Chuli, and guess what? She they can relate to her because, I don't know, maybe they, eat the same ice cream. I don't know. But, there's things that you can relate and connect with people on. And I think that's what people want right now. They want someone to connect with.
Originally, when I heard of the Toronto 6 coming to Toronto, what I was thinking, what I thought of in my mind was cross promotion with the Toronto Rock, the lacrosse team, because it has a similar atmosphere. Two nets, sticks on hand. So it will be to me it sounded great.
100%. And I've got a lacrosse background. We started the league. How funny is that we started the league, right, Justin? Who would have thought?
Yeah, I think that's actually really remarkable, and that was going to be my next question for you. So, again, after your CWHL days, you mentioned that you took that break, and with your partner, you did this amazing thing in just lacrosse league. Here it is. What was the conversation like? How did that come together?
So it was interesting because at the time, I don't know if you remember, but there was this big, that's when Danny Ryland started the NWHL. And we had been working on a similar proposal. It was an original 6 concept with 3 teams in the US and 3 teams in Canada. And we were going to present it. And then Danny came in and she had all this money. And the players were like, we're going to go get paid millions of dollars. And Aranda and I were like, yeah, we don't think that's going to happen. Our philosophy was, as women that had been in the game for so long, and Danny did her best. She's an upstart. She's thinking, I'm going to go get money and we're going to go pay players because that's good, right? But to sustain a business model, you need a lot of money for women's sports, right? And we just said to the players all the time, do what's right for you and we'll do what's right for us. And if you guys have to go play in the NWHL, go ahead. So they went. And Ed Saunders, who is a hockey guy, was working in lacrosse at the time. And I was down in Naples, Florida, at the coaches convention. And every year the hockey coaches go down there and they do like an equipment convention. And, you do X's and O's, education. So we were telling Ed the story, and he worked for STX, the lacrosse company. And Ed goes, we kind of do that already with STX. We pay players, their ambassadors, just take the hockey model to lacrosse. And we're like, we could do that, And then we started to think about similar concepts and similar marketing ideas. We had already done the blades for, 3 years. And Aranda, my partner, is, really smart in business. She can do all the spreadsheets, and I can get the athletes and get them motivated. I'm a good leader. So we're like, why not? And so we did that. We started 3 teams. We did the Philly Force, the Long Island Sound, the Boston Storm, and what was the other one? The Baltimore Ride. So we decided what the markets were. And we went, first year, we were in the black. And the second year, Justin, our commissioner left and started the WPLL. So the joke is, Eduardo, you're going to like this. The joke is, Digit Murphy and Aranda Kirby come in. There was 0 lacrosse leagues. Hockey, okay? Only hockey. The 2 hockey people came, started not 1 league, but lit the fire for 2. And then we pieced out and we created 2 more opportunities for women. And that, to me, is taking that negative. Anyone else would have been like, oh my God, what a jerk, We're like, hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. and we create a negative, turn it into a positive, create more opportunities, and then, China happened. So it all worked out. And, for me, it's always been about creating opportunity. That's been the moral compass of my life. So it was fun. It was fun to be in another sport. Did you see what we did? Changed all the rules. I don't know if you knew what we did. We implemented the 2-point shot, the shot clock, because at the end
with Lindsay and Brooke a couple weeks back.
Yeah. I mean, it was so fun, but, yeah, it was so cool to come into a sport that you never were in, right? And then you can create. So I don't know. It was fun. And then rest is history.
So now you touched the topic of China. China is an interesting country because although they are very patriarchal, they focus on the men more than the women. But they strive with their women's sports because they see the potential and they fund them a lot more than they do in North America.
They did.
How was that experience of going into a country that is a lot more enthusiastic about the women than
do you have like a whole nother show? That's a whole nother show, Eduardo. I loved every minute of it. It was an amazing adventure. I have so many funny stories. But the way I got involved in it was my friend's name is Scott McPherson, and he, he's from the Rhode Island area, and we've been friends for a while. And he was in the KHL working with, I don't know, I can't remember if he was working with Kunlun or he got in touch with our owner. And he was starting to work with the men's side in the KHL, and our owner Billy Nook was buying the team or whatever. And Scotty calls me up and he goes, "Didge," he goes, "do you ever think of going to China and coach in hockey?" And I'm like, "China? They don't have any teams. They haven't had good teams since, I don't know, the 90s." He's like, No, we're looking into doing it. Would you be interested? I'm like, I'm always interested, right? And at the time, my kids are in college, so, I'm getting into this different phase of life, and I'm like, sure, I'll talk to these guys. So they flew me over there, and Keenan at the time was involved, and Phil Esposito, and Scotty, and Bobby Carpenter, and I'm like, this is going to be a lot of fun, right? With all these guys, my childhood idol, like Phil Esposito and Mike Keenan. It was like a blast. I was like, yeah, baby, let's go. So we went in there and talked to our owner, and he funded everything, guys. 2 teams. He was very, very open. And when you say about women and men, like, they were not discriminatory in our world, right? They really gave us not only what we needed, but more. They built us a dorm. They retrofitted a whole arena. Like, these guys really did it right. I think what was difficult, it wasn't the money. Like, the money, they could throw resources at it. It was the culture and teaching the game to people that valued different things in the game. And let me give you an example. So I think in China, the way that they kind of, I don't even know how to say it. They think more is better. They think if you do more, you're going to be better. And I think anyone that's been coaching hockey or playing hockey knows that you can't play hockey 7 hours a day and be effective, right? Your body burns out. It's just so tough on your body. You can't practice 7 hours a day. And I think their expectations were to get better quickly, you just do more. And I think we know what it's like. A hockey, like I say, a marathon, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's the same thing in hockey. When you coach it, you have to teach concepts, right? You have to teach thinking. You have to teach skills, but skills with a purpose. Like, you could be the best skater in the world, the best passer, the best shooter, and you could be the worst hockey player, right? You've heard those people before. No hockey sense, no timing, no understanding of the game. So when you think about coaching and playing hockey, it's an evolution of teaching, right? It's like, you don't just go to college and learn everything in 1 year. You need a 4-year degree. So I think China was a little impatient in growing their people to be better hockey players. And I think that was the disconnect for me, which was really difficult because you need to value human capital. You need to teach them how to think the game. And that was in a little bit of a disconnect with me and the way I coached, but it was phenomenal. I mean, you saw our team, right? I mean, our our kids were good. You know, we had the sport ambassador program, right? We had 10 North Americans and 10 Chinese on one team. I don't know if you saw that whole. Do you need clarification on that model, Justin? Do you know that? Do you know what we did there?
I was somewhat familiar with it.
I'm kind of losing your band. What'd you say?
I said I was somewhat familiar with it.
Yeah, and Eduardo, just to familiarize you with what we did in China, we had 2 teams, and we had 10 North Americans who we called orphans or whatever, Olympian-style kids, and paired up with 1 Chinese. So we had 20 total players on one team. They were paired up one-on-one. So we had a North American, a Chinese, North American, Chinese, North American, Chinese. So we kind of got double coaching, double mentoring. And then on the other team, we had the same. So we had 20 sport ambassadors and 20 of the best Chinese kids on 2 different teams mixed up. And it really would have worked if they had, I believe wholeheartedly, if they had been patient with the process, it would have worked. But for whatever reason, you know, they wanted to win fast and win quickly. And I think there was a reason, which was something that we didn't know about. It was a political thing or whatever. Like they had to win
100%.
fast. What?
In Asia, that's the thing. You have to win in order to prove that you are good.
Yeah. And you can't win overnight. That was the problem. They wanted you to win overnight, and you can't, because it wasn't like you had okay, I'll tell you what. If we had 41,000 players to pick from, and I went in and coached and could cherry pick them, we would have won all the time. Guess how many players there were, guys, in all of China? 294 players.
Oh,
wow.
Damn.
You can't make chicken salad out of.
It's no, I understand where you're coming from because I played baseball in Japan. So
you know,
when they teach you by making you perfect. They don't teach you by
right. You are right.
By teaching you the sport. They'll tape you and tape you and tape you and tape you, and they'll tell you have to get this angle.
Yep.
And everything is perfection. It has to be the perfect angle with the perfect. And if you don't make it, you are gone.
Yeah, and I think that anyone that knows the way that I coach, that's not how I coach. I'm all about teaching and learning. And what?
Heart.
Exactly. I was
the
talking
love of the game.
I was talking to someone today about my team, and I said, there's a bar that I go with. So think about it this way. If you're going to pick players, you're going to pick them for, yes, their hockey playing ability, but to separate the winners from the losers, or the winners from just the people that show up, or the winners are just in there for themselves. It's about their character. And if you can get a team, majority of them out of 20 players, 19 out of 20 or 18 out of 20 that are good heart and good character players, and you start from that same benchmark of talent, you win all day long, because you're going to get people to buy into your mission and get on the same page. The worst thing you can do is just create a team of either superstars or all talent, because that's just, in my opinion, the way that I coach, it's a recipe for disaster, because they got to have fun. They got to think fast. They got to do fast, and they got to be furious. And if they do that, we win.
So now that you're touching on a topic, Olympic hockey in the women's division has come very far along compared to, I think sometimes you watch Olympic women's hockey and you feel that it's better than the men's, because you are actually seeing hockey played with the fundamentals. So, I don't want to see the fancy shots. I want to see the game of hockey played.
Yeah.
And that's what the women bring to the table in Olympic hockey. Where do you see, what's the next step in Olympic hockey in the women's division to make North America succeed?
What the next iteration in the Olympics, obviously would be to get more teams playing like US and Canada. I also think that you're going to see okay. I think the US and Canada got better, and Justin's going to agree with me. I know this because the CWHL existed. Okay. Because if you don't have a feeder system for Hockey Canada, the only players that are going to develop are whatever select pools that Hockey Canada selects and has to pay for, right? When you think about the teams, those 4 teams, plus, no, the Chinese kind of didn't count, but the 4 teams that the CWHL sponsored, okay, those teams were really the Olympic pool, right? Because after college, if you don't have anywhere to play, you don't have an Olympic pool. You go just to play for Canada. Where do you play your games, right? You don't have any games. So I think that, Hockey Canada and USA Hockey have been smart to partner with the NW and the CW because that's a smart move because now they're getting, I don't want to say free, but really they're getting free talent developed, right? Not on their dime. So I think that in order for Canada to get more opportunities to grow their pool, they need to now have more teams in Canada and not just rely only on the States like they do in college because you can't develop post-collegiately without places to play because right now, guess where the Canadians are going? They're going to Europe, okay, because of the PWHP and NWHL war and all the letters, EIEIO. I don't have any patience for this. I'm too old. They shouldn't be fighting. We should be working together to grow the game. And that's all I'm going to say. But I'll probably get in trouble by someone for saying that, but I can't help myself. We have to work together.
And a lot of people I've spoken with have said the exact same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we're growing the game, work together, and that's just, it's the same message. And so when you look at like the WNHL and those talks and bringing the two together rather than having them as 2 separate entities, you're right. There is this war, and it's unreasonable. That one side or both sides are whatever it looks like internally are either saying no to each other, or one side's just saying no, not going to happen. So to that angle, I would absolutely agree with you.
Well, I'll go on record to say that the NWHL completely, and I know this for a fact, have reached out to Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, the PWHPA, and they flat out they reject us. So it's fine. I mean, I don't think it's good for the game. And whatever. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion. I just wish that we could work together because I think there's a lot of good players in that league. I think they would benefit from training. I know that they got a great sponsorship. That's awesome. That's good for the game because guess what? Now they're setting the market, right? So our point here, if the market's starting to be set by sponsors giving hockey players $1 million for their leagues, that's a good thing, right? It's always a good thing when women are valued, and the little, whatever, the different models, it's fine. I just don't think anyone should ever prohibit or interfere with someone else's opportunity, right? We can coexist.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I always said about Canada, particularly, and I hate to say this because I love Canada as a country, but is that the sports, and we'll talk about women. Our women hockey players have to go elsewhere to be successful because Canada doesn't have the opportunities at the university level for them to succeed.
Yeah.
They have to go to mature somewhere else when they could do it at home. If there were scholarships, if there were, Canada doesn't have a sports culture within the university system.
Don't they have U Sports? Don't they have U? They have it though, Eduardo. Don't they have U Sports now? I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
there is
know.
youth sports, but you don't get scholarships. They
Oh, got it.
tuition, so it takes away from that idea that they don't have to worry about the the financial aspects of their education.
Yeah.
Uh, if and for women's hockey, that's even a lot. Let's say for women's sports, it's a lot harder because if you have to have a full-time job at university to be able
Yeah.
to support yourself because
Yeah.
you're coming from rural Canada
Right.
into Toronto, you know, it's very difficult.
Yeah, I'm not really that familiar with the way that Canada does it, but I do know that you guys have cheaper college, I think, right here. So I don't know if you guys have the same kind of subsidies that we have or loans, but and as you say that, I kind of think about it because at Brown we didn't have any scholarships, right? We had resources, we had a good school that we could sell. But it's interesting, like if you had the tools, like say the U Sports had the tools to succeed, and you think about it, I'm not saying it's a better model, right? Because the kids have to pay. Like taking that out, think about the kids, the players being where they need to be, right? And then just working with what you have to make them good. So if you had the best coaches and some best resources, you could do it. It's just a different mindset. Like say you had the best coach there and you were at, I don't know, Ryerson or U of T, and you had a lot of kids that wanted to go there. It could be a good league if you really thought a little differently about how you put it together. I think it's just like women wanting to have the men own their professional sports. It's Canada wanting to be like the US. Why doesn't Canada just be Canada? Right? I don't know. I just always apply that overarching mindset to it. Canada should be proud of being Canada, give money to the sports they want to, and then be great at them. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box, being controversial, having some fun with the conversation.
Oh yeah.
Good point. The models are very different between the U Sports and NCAA as it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you look at it, actually, that was actually a really great point that you made. Instead of following the model of okay, Canada, let's become the U.S. in certain things that we do, just be Canada. Yeah, that's a great takeaway.
Embrace it because you guys are smarter than the U.S. Okay, I'm just going to go out here and say this, Eduardo, right? I mean, I think I was reading a stat because I was trying to figure out like what was going on in my country politically. And I think Canada has 40 some odd % college graduates. Like you guys have more people that go to college, which to me, I'm not saying you're more educated, but I'm saying that if that's the stat. And I think we were like 35. So you guys actually have more people going to college. And I think that has to do with the fact that it's cheaper. I don't know.
Well, it's technically the university here is subsidized in a certain manner,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, and I don't think it has to do with the subsidy. Is the idea that in Canada the kids, I'm not going to put myself in that book because when I went to university, I was coming from Latin America, and we were always inscribed that we had to go to university no matter what,
right?
Because that's what had to be done. Canada kids now are starting to realize that maybe a college education gives you that background that you need.
Right.
You go straight to the workforce. You're not going to get the opportunities you can get if you have a college background. In the States, the problem is the level, depending if you go from community college all the way to the richness of the land.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And, I think that I don't want to talk over the fact that, there's a lot of underserved populations in Canada and the US that aren't getting the opportunity. So there should be a way for everyone to afford an education, whether it be in the US and Canada. And I think that's what we have to work on. And I agree with you, Eduardo. The difference maker in the U.S. is the scholarships for those kids that can't afford it, because there's so many. Like me, for example, I came from a very I'm not going to say poor, but lower middle class background, and without going to Cornell and getting all the help that I had, I wouldn't be able to go to Cornell without sports. I mean, it just worked out. Even though there was no scholarships, they give me a lot of help. Let's just put it that way. I don't know how. But I think it's important. So there's got to be some kind of solution to get kids the education they need, especially the athletes. And I think if the U Sport programs could kind of focus on that, that would be a great priority for them. I mean, maybe it's for every school they get like 2 scholarships a team. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, as the U.S. Like, create different models. People can't think outside the box.
No, and that's another way to grow the sport, because if you start having that subsidy or that idea of having a university hockey team for women, then you get the women. Why not to have a hockey league in high school? You know what I mean?
Right.
That allows women to participate in hockey or any sport for that matter. I mean, right now the typical sports for women in Canada, either they play basketball or they play volleyball or they play soccer, but that's about the size of it, because there is no track and field. And I had a good friend of mine that was a javelin thrower, so they can throw the javelin. But
It's
I mean, it's not.
it comes down to business, though, right? It's a business, and I think that if you look at sports, sometimes the cost of it is prohibitive of the opportunities that they have. And I'll give you an example. So when you're looking at all the rinks in Canada, where does all the ice go right now? Always, not saying boys, it's all youth sports. And why is that? Right here. It's all about the money, right? It's about the hockey, but it's a business. So, if you're now going to factor in universities that have men's and women's programs and all those feeder systems, even in Canada, are there enough rinks, that you're going to be able to use the ice in? What's the business model around that? So I think a lot of times it's easy to come up with these solutions, but in practicality and reality, there's economic constraints, which I think is one of the main reasons why women's sports can't grow. Just not only because of the resources, but to start to think about it like reality in a business is where there's this disconnect with not only the athletes, but the owners, the fans, valuing to pay for a ticket for women's hockey versus, men's hockey. It's an interesting education, right? In social norms.
I mean, and I am dreaming that the Toronto Six really gets to a platform, because it will show hockey fans what the women's game can do, and it will create a competition finally in within this city, competition for the Maple Leafs, because they haven't had competition in this market.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I look at the CWHL, right? And the Markham Thunder, and they won. So
But
granted,
but it's Markham. That's the problem. The problem it wasn't in the city.
okay.
The travel time for someone to get from the downtown core to Markham to watch, you could be stuck in traffic for 2 hours.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think that for us, we'll be out at York or on a subway line. We're only in an arena right now that has 1,000 people at the most. So, crawl, walk, run, right? We got to crawl. We got to get the places, we got to get York filled, right? We got to get people in that building. And then hopefully you grow in, 3 or 4 years or whatever. But like, you have to have a business plan. You can't just come in and go, we're going to go fill the Maple Leaf.
No, but I want to ask you a question, a sincere question.
Sure.
Why is it that you guys didn't end up at Ryerson instead of York?
I think that whenever you go into those kind of buildings, you get into these situations where, you have constraints, locker rooms, right? Sponsorship constraints where now, you got to come in and be like a Molson operator. You're running up against men's and women's hockey in the building. Like they are not set up for professional teams to just come in and do it. So, and I think right now it was easier for us to just come into a smaller arena, make our mark in the market, and then grow from there, right? I mean, I think it's a business decision made by our ownership to not just come in guns a-blazing. Let's get the market warmed up to us. Let's make a big splash. I mean, you got to see our locker room. We just built out, we spent some money in Canlan. We built out a nice locker room for the players. And, we'll get there. Don't worry. We're coming at you. And, it might be more, it might be just 1 year.
When you get there, I'll be there every game because I'm just about a couple minutes away from your university. So.
Well, after this year, if I'm not the coach anymore, some people are going to be like, "Come on!" My players are like, "Come on, you got to coach." I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm getting way too old to this," but it's fun. But we'll be sitting in the box, me and you. We'll be sitting in the box watching the game.
So, Digit, do you think that Anatomy Athletic Center is on the table at some point in the future for the Toronto Six? I mean, again, because you said it, you have to make your mark and grow first. But once you do, let's say, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it takes, do you think that that's on the table eventually?
To do what? To stay in Toronto?
To move from Canlan to Anatomy Athletic Center?
Absolutely. I think a bigger venue. I mean, we'd have to, because if you start to do the math, right, in an arena that only holds 1,000 people, you're not going to cash flow, right? You have to, and this is funny. I always talk to people about do the math in women's sports, right? They want to get paid equal pay, right? And if you had 4 teams, say, and you paid everyone say $50,000 livable wage, right? 4 teams, 20 players a team, 50 times 20 players, that's $1 million right off the bat, 1 year. Just in salary, right? So you got to, for 4 teams, you got to make $4 million if you pay them $60,000, $50,000. Then travel, coaches, ice. It's a big investment. So all I'm saying is that in order to make up your revenue, you have to sell a lot of tickets. So we can't stay in a small venue for very long if we do want to, cash flow and make a return on investment for our ownership, right? So it's natural.
Exactly. I think that'll come with the marketing, which is obviously going to continue to grow. But again, you mentioned the constraints earlier on that come from the time that we're in, and just naturally, that's what what you're dealing with right now.
But I would like to, any investors that are out there, people that care about women, they should contact me. There's other ways, like, sponsor our Twitter handle, sponsor one of our digital magazines that you'll see coming out in December. There's ways to do this that if you get in early, you might be able to sign on early and just be an adapter of our philosophy. And I think that's important too.
So let's talk marketing. Let's talk money making opportunities. Where do you see, and which sponsors would you welcome? Would you like to welcome first into the Toronto Six? In terms, either do you want sports affiliated businesses, or do you want, let's say, more down the middle of the ground businesses, that corporations that to sponsor it in?
I think that it depends on the categories. I mean, obviously the easy ones are the Scotiabanks and the RBCs and the Tim Hortons. Like, those are the easy ones. Canadian Tire. But I think there's also a market for it. And, people are like, "Did your crazy harebrained schemes?" But I think there's a market for small local businesses to get involved too. I call it the Elizabeth Warren model down in the States, right? She get a lot of little donations, like millions of little donations to sponsor her. I see a similar business model in Toronto. There's a lot of smaller businesses that may want to be part of this. Maybe they can't get into a big sports arena, and maybe it's like 50 companies for $1,000 each and they get something. Like, the more people you bring in to influence your brand, the better. The more people you touch with your 3 pillars of success in education, empowerment and inclusion, they're subscribing to your philosophy. So when you start to think about that kind of mindset and model, I don't think you always have to go big or go home. I mean, obviously, we'd love $100,000 sponsorship from this one and $100,000 from that one. But I think you can build it both ways, especially in a city like Toronto, where there's a lot of diversity. And if you reach out to communities, trust me, they'll reach back to you.
Are you guys open to product-based partnerships? Maybe, and we know this pandemic has affected a lot of businesses throughout, especially those small and medium-sized businesses that you were talking about. Are you guys willing to? Are you guys open to partnerships where there might be products or services affiliated that they can provide to the team?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you're always in this predicament in women's sports. You know, it's how you value yourself, right? And everyone wants to just give you stuff and put their name on, you know, wherever on your website because that helps them. But it has to help you too. And at some point you have to get cash, right? To cash flow.
100%.
So yes, the answer is yes.
But with the small and medium-sized businesses, let's say in that term, because it will get your name, your brand out also within their businesses. You know
I think, yeah, absolutely. There are definitely categories for that. But I do think that, like, you know, like, for example, like, say you wanted a small business to sponsor a meet and greet with the York Storm, little girls, right? You had a local pizza guy that wants to do that, you know, absolutely. But I think that what we've gotten used to in women's sports is saying, thank you for a free water bottle. You know what I mean? Or thank you for a free t-shirt. And then the company that you brand with, they make all like, they're like, oh, we're with the Toronto Six and they're getting all this value add and we're getting a t-shirt and a water bottle. So I just think that model is, yes, open for certain categories, but it has to change to get cash and, you know, get more people. But it's a chicken and egg thing, right? If no one cares about you, how can you demand cash? So it's an evolution.
I mean, especially, I see you guys are going the digital way to try to promote the team. So there is an opportunity for that partnership with a digital marketing firm.
100%.
Or with IT firms that will provide you services, whether it's cell phones, whether it's whatever.
100%. That's, you know,
because you guys are going to travel, so you guys have to have the right equipment traveling with you.
Hotspots when we travel, right? Mm-hmm. Rogers, you know, 100%. And I think that those creative ideas are always on the table. And anyone from Rogers out there, anyone wants to call me, you call me. You know, we'll do a social distance coffee. We'll get on a Zoom call. Let's go.
Definitely. So let's get a little bit more into what's going on currently. We know, and I know that it has been a hot topic because we know that with the Canadian borders closed, there is the idea that you guys will have to play somewhere else. Where are those conversations right now at the league level as to the selection of that city where you guys are going to be?
Yeah, I think everyone's trying to figure out what the next move is going to be. And it's anyone's guess, right? I mean, I think that right now, obviously, I would love to have it up here, but I don't think any Canadians are going to let any of the U.S. teams in here because we're Cowboys down south. Let's just call a spade. Like, there's a lot of crazy things happening down there. So, you know, I think that, you know, that's up to Ty right now. I mean, I know she's hustling and trying to get a season off the ground, but there hasn't been anything disclosed yet. But we're still hoping that a season might happen, a shortened one at some point, probably south of the border, not around here. Like I said, I don't think Justin Trudeau and crew here are going to take anyone up from the U.S. They're not going to let us in the border.
Right,
Well,
and orders were expanded today, the restriction until December 21st. So, with that in mind, and yeah, the first thing I thought is, God, the Toronto Six really are just having it kicked at them. So my
I
question
know.
for you here is, with that thought in mind, does it have to be a bubble that I mean, when you look at other sports that have had to do bubbles, you look at the
Yeah.
NHL, you look at the World Juniors currently having just started in Red Deer.
Yeah.
For the NWHL, is there enough money on the table to do a bubble?
Yeah,
What's the next
I
step for
think
in
it's
terms
I
of
think it's
that?
always on the table. It's always a discussion with our board of governors. It's really going to depend on how much the owners are going to have to dump into this and whether it makes, cash sense, cost effective sense. So I know there have been like several scenarios discussed, and now with that happening, I think it probably has to be, but that's kind of at a higher level in me. I do my best to add value, and I would always promote safety, which would be the bubble thing. But is it cost effective? That's up to those guys and how much money they want to put in. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that maybe the season will happen, and like I said, it might magically disappear, like the people in the South are saying. But the vaccine, they're saying that the vaccine's coming, right? So we'll see.
yeah, but it won't be to by the time that we get it, we'll be in 222.
I know. Well, we're not going to need it up here. I will say though, now I don't know if I'm going to be able to go home for Christmas, so I'll be having a Santa Claus hat on in Canada.
Well, better said than sorry.
I know. Everyone's like, "You're lucky you're in Canada." I'm like, "Really?" So, Justin, what do you think about some of the players we have? I'd be interested to hear your take on some of our players relative to the rest of the league.
Sure, why not? Obviously, from those who I've gotten to know so far, you look at Lindsay Eastwood, love her, and having her on Barn Burner. I've been here since end of August, and when I heard that, I was thrilled. And she's so kind, and I mean, obviously talented. That's there. Michaela Grant Mentis, I've spoken with Taylor Woods and Jenna McParlin. By the way, you just got two great people in. In addition to their talents, they're just excellent people who I got to know with the Markham Thunder. I mean, your roster it's great, and something I really want to acknowledge is your outreach, which has gone really far to the SDHL even to get Brooke Boquist, Emma Woods. How does that kind of thing come together where you can get that far out to go grab a player?
It's really just networking and trusting people and relying on players to bring in other players and really having that relationship with them. Like, I'm a relationship coach, as you can probably tell. Like, this power play, that power play, but at the end of the day, there's a definition in how my team plays, how we operate. And it's more like a family. It's a lot of fun. Like, practices are very people laugh because at Brown I was such a taskmaster. Like, I was Mike Ditka, Bill Parcells, and Bobby Knight all rolled into one, and I was kicking ass and taking names. And now, as I've evolved into a more relationship coach, it not only feels natural, but it's much less stressful. It's more fun. It's more positive. It creates this really cool environment with women that's magical. And, those players know me, right? So then they know who can play for me. So I rely on my players a lot because I was talking to one of the college coaches today about coaching professional athletes. And he's like, it must be so much fun to like use them as partners in the game and not just as like, you have to teach them everything. I'm like, absolutely. I said, it was so cool. The day I stepped on the ice with the Boston Blades in 2012, 2013, it was just a different game for me. It was so fun. I had Cahow and Buser and Hillary Knight and Decker and Watchor and all those guys, right? It was so fun to coach those high-level kids in that environment because they would just look at me. Okay, what do you want us to do? You want us to go through that wall or that one? Because they want to win so badly, and they'll work with you. Kelly Stack was hands down the best player athlete that I have ever worked with. Best leader, bar none. And I've worked with so many Olympians. But anyways, the way that I did it was built the team out of the Fab Five, I call them. Woods, Taylor Woods, Greco, Barbs, Shy, and Chuli. I took those 5 and I said, all right, who do you want? And then we just went down the list and we talked and we went through it. And then I would recruit them and I'd call them up. And, you know, I just told them this is about a mission about an education, inclusion, empowerment. If this is about money, hang up the phone. We're not talking. You cannot be on our team and care about money. You have to care about the mission. And that's how we did it. And it was pretty easy. The kids were really bought in. And then I had a waiting list. I have so many kids that still want to play. So that's awesome.
Right, and so that leaves me with a couple more questions. The first was actually something that I was thinking about earlier today before I go into something that's obviously more relative to this conversation. And you look at the players you have now, and you've got a ton of stars, whether they be from university or the PWPA, wherever they might come from. Do you see a captain in the mix? And I mean, I'm sure that by now that might have to have crossed your mind just in preparation. Has that been a reoccurring thought yet?
I mean, as far as captains go, I always let the players pick them. I definitely rely on some of my more longer relationships. Like I rely on Shy or Chuli a lot because you know I've known them the longest. You know, but it really depends. For me, there's so many different captains for me. Like you know, Taylor Woods is just that lead by example every day. Like I'll be up, hey, Woodsy, what's going on? You know, you're awesome today. And we'll like have a little conversation. And then you've got, who's the other one? McP. I always talk to McParlin. She's awesome. The older players I gravitate to a little more, but then, you know, you got Marcuzzi, who's an investment banker. She's so smart, you know, and like whenever there's like, maybe some sponsorship stuff, we talk with her, you know, whatever. Like, I think they're just all their own person. I think on the ice, though, it could end up being someone like a Shy or something like that I see. But we're still evolving. And I like what the players think, too. You know, I'll let them vote, too. You know?
Right, and that's really important. And then when I think about, okay, what do players think? And I look at the roster with 17 and knowing that, you know, like you said, you have a waiting list, and you know, even just thinking, okay, what could this team use? I look at the York University history, just given that you're at Camlin, and I think, is there some York that's still down the line there? When you look at Jenna Gray was a name I was discussing earlier today, who's now a coach with York on hiatus from being a player. Aaron Locke, who's not signed. Is that a thought?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, I think it's going to really depend on what I've had a problem with over the last couple of weeks is the number of kids on the ice, you know, because of the restrictions. So it's worked out for us because you can only have 10 on the ice and we have 17 players. So we have like one kid that might be on injured or one kid that might have quarantine because of their job and they're like off 10 days. So we've kind of like navigated those waters, and it's going to be a real delicate dance for me to bring in 4 more players, right? If I really want to have 20. So, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely room, and I'm going to have to see what the season holds, right? Once we kind of figure out, because to me, if we're not going to play a season, why waste Miles' money, you know, and JoJo's money and sign more players, right? Like I'm kind of always, because I own the league. You know, when we own the league, I kind of side with owners as well. You know, it's not just all about the players, it's about the business model. So, yeah, I mean, definitely open to players everywhere, you know, but they got to have our mindset, right? Fun, fast, furious, education, empowerment, inclusion, and they got to be good players. So that's a lot. And some people can't take my energy. They're like, Digit, no, she's too much. Okay, bye. Don't come.
I think that kind of
subtraction.
drive a player more. I mean, you look at your players and they love you because you're fun, you're light, and you know how to keep things entertaining during a practice. I think that would be something that gravitates a player towards you rather than pull away.
Yeah, it's different strokes, right? And it's all good. Some people get nervous around like people like me, and that's okay. We don't want them. Addition by subtraction. No, but when I'm on the ice, I do you know, like I just have fun with them. Like last night I was like, no more diddle daddle do. And they're like, what is that? Diddle daddle do. And I kept saying the same thing over and over again because you know how they play and they're just about to shoot it and then they pass it right in front of the net. And I'm like, shoot the puck. No diddle daddle do. And they like start laughing, you know, because I'll just make up stuff and it's fun. So, you know, it's definitely an adventure. I don't know if you saw any of the videos from China, but oh my God, we had so much fun in China. We were doing like play by play, like on the way down the runway. I'd be like, Sonny, are we going to win? She'd be like, we going to win. Yes, Coach Murphy. Anyways, it's fun.
Yeah,
You remind me a lot of one of my only major league baseball player manager that I had, Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah. Italian. That's why we're both Italians.
He was a ball of laughter. I mean, he treated you like family and every sense of the word. And you know, he was come to my house, let's have dinner.
Yeah.
Talk. Is not his office. I don't think his office at Dodger Stadium was ever used. After the game, everyone went to Tommy's for dinner. There is where everything was discussed.
Yeah. That's like, you know, the Dom, you know, you have everyone around the table with the pasta. That's how I grew up. I grew up in an Italian household around the grapevine, sitting outside, and my grandparents just at their house a lot. That's where I started to play baseball. My first sport was hitting a wiffle ball at 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And people clapped. When I saw that they clapped, I'm like, oh, this is fun. People are clapping for me, and all I'm doing is hitting this ball. I like sports, you know? So, all right, I got to go to bed. I'm getting to be an old lady.
Well, with that note, let's tell our viewers, and thank you very much, Digit, for being on the show.
I don't want to cut you guys off, but I just wanted to thank you guys for having me. It's a blast. And I told you today when I talked to you, I go, I'll probably end up talking for longer than a half an hour, but let's put me down for half. I just really enjoy talking women's sports because I don't think there's enough people that talk enough about it. And if I can be on anyone's show and help out the conversation and advance the agenda, that's how you know you get the word out there. Because I always say, if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, does it ever make a sound? So we have to keep those sounds coming, and we need to keep advocating for women. So Justin, thank you for what you're doing. Eduardo, thank you for what you're doing, and let's keep pushing this. I always say, advance that puck up ice. Let's get that puck moving up ice.
And that's the message on women's sports. Get women's sports moving. And that's something that I love about you. Your push for empowerment, and that goes along with your series on empowerment. It's, you know, that's the message. Get women's sports moving. And I think that's so much needed, and I love that about you. Well,
thanks you guys for keeping those fires burning for us. We need more men like you. I love men.
So, anytime that you want to come back, you are more than welcome. Definitely. I mean, I love to talk. And next time we'll talk politics, because down south, where you come from, they are having a couple issues with a big snub.
Oh yeah, you're get me in trouble talking politics. Everyone will hate me. I need people to love me. Right? Digit Murphy, we love them. Next thing you know, I start talking politics.
I think we lie on the same side of the stick on that one.
Okay, good.
So there would be disagreements on that one.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. I'll let you guys go and finish up the rest of your show. But I love the Barn Burner Network. I love you guys. I like that logo. Justin, good logo you got over there.
Thank you. If you ever want to come on Sticks and Sticks, I'll be in touch with you. I'm more than happy to have you.
You know, send me a Zoom. You know, find me. I live in Toronto now with no family. I have no life. Just kidding. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. So you witnessed the president and head coach of the Toronto Six, the life of the party at the Toronto Six, from what I can see, and now, Justin, now that you had a chance to speak to Digit for about an hour or so, where do you see this team going the progressing?
I think that this team has so much potential, based on the players that she got and the values of which the players she's looking for. Because again, it's not about the money; it's about empowering. And I've spoken with Lindsay Eastwood at length, even before she joined Barnburner, and she said that something that gravitated her to Toronto was that she's a pro-feminist and she's looking to, be an advocate for other women, and not just in sports. And so I think that with that motive in mind, if she can, keep that going with the rest of the roster yet to be named, then, I think this team has so much potential, not only as human beings, but, the stardom and the offensive talent that this team has. There's no question in my mind that this is easily an Isabel Cup contender, but, again, we have to know where they're playing, what if there will be a season. And, from what I've gathered, it sounds like there will be a season. It's a matter of how are they going to pull it off. But, I couldn't have picked a better leader than Digit Murphy. I was thinking when I heard that there was a head coach hunt going on, a source told me that was that they had some strong contenders, but then I was like, okay, in COVID, how would this work? And I was thinking, you know what, Digit just makes sense. And while I didn't exactly think that she would be a coach again, now in a presidential role, I was like, okay, interesting. I wonder if she would say yes, though. And she's a perfect leader. And then Gary Soper, who is a scout with Hockey Canada for the national women's team, just made too much sense to go with her. And, I don't know him. I've never spoken with him, but it seems that they mesh well and they have a good group to push this team forward.
So we were talking with her about the location of where they are playing at Georgia University. Do you think and a lot of the marketing, I imagine, will be for the people in the area, because it's still, although it's on the subway line, it's still a little bit of a ride up to York. What do you think they have to do to attract that crowd? Those 1,000 people that are going to fill that arena.
Well, again, it's about marketing, right? And if that means, like she said, to cross promote and get the brand out there in, I don't know, small businesses, restaurants, that's obviously a huge first step. I mean, I know the Buffalo Buttes and the NBHL have started growing their brand within small businesses. And I think that right now that might just be the right target market to go after. That way they can get the name out across the city of Toronto. And, the more people who see the logo and who see the name, they get familiar, they research, they look, and then, they buy tickets, and you keep that trend going, along with their broadcasts on Twitch for at least another year after this year. I think that that's going to help them to grow. And then after that, maybe Mattamy Athletic Center, also known as Maple Leaf Gardens, once they really have grown to a point where they're known, to a point where the familiarity is there, and they can, get that target market expanded to the point where they can fill more seats than Canlan.
Perfect. Well, Justin, I want to thank you very much, because you saved me with some of the questions that I couldn't ask, or I wouldn't know how to ask them. So to our viewership, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We enjoyed really a great conversation with Digit Murphy. We hope to have her here again, and on 6 and 6 as well. So just want to remind you that this show can also be heard across the Barber platform, and it's 122 platforms on social media as well. Remember that to go to our website, barber.ca, for all the news, where you can get them in audio, video, all those shows that you probably missed or you haven't listened to. All our programming is there as well. And remember, Barnburner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, but especially live it, because Barnburner is sports, and sports is Barnburner. Until next week, when we meet again, hopefully next week with our partner Lloyd Mosby here, talking about some of the recent baseball news on this draft. This has been Eduardo Harari for Justin Levine and Digit Murphy. We'll see you on Saturday morning when we bring you soccer at its best on Spanglish Sports World. Please stay safe at home during this